Welcome back to Resilience by Faith podcast, where we share stories and topics that give God the glory. And it's talked about in a modern way where people of all ages can relate to. So come on in because we have a lot to catch up on. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Resilience by Faith podcast. I am Reese, your host, and today we are going to be talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart and something that I am continuously learning on a day to day basis, and that's you can always come home. That is the theme, that's the main character in this whole play, is that you can always come home. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button to when I upload a new podcast episode so you can be alerted, and also share this with family and friends so that I can help spread the word and the awareness of this podcast and help other people feel the way you do every time you listen to my episodes. So, guys, listen, you can always come home. For those of you who grew up in the church, I know you know that that comes from the story of the prodigal son, and how he went out and he had all these riches, and he was just living his best life, and then he decided to come back home. If you're not familiar with this story, please open your Bibles and find the prodigal son, because it tells the love of the father's love for his son, and no matter what. And he received him with open arms. He could care less about what he's done, how he's did it. He's not throwing anything in his face. He just has his arms wide open. Matter of fact, he was so excited and happy that he was coming home, he started running too. They was running to embrace each other. And when I think about that scene, I'm just like, gosh, when you love somebody so much despite how disappointed you think they might be, or how disappointed you think you should be in them for what they have done, all you can do is just, let's just forget all that. Let's just push that to the side and embrace each other, because nothing means more to me than you. Forget what you've done. Forget what you said. Forget, all the other things that is just irrelevant. All I care about is you. All I want is you in my life. And when I think about God thinking about me in that way, that makes me nervous. But that makes me so grateful. I have done a lot of things. I'm sure that you have too. Those of you who are listening, none of us are perfect, but some of those things I'd be like, dang, you betray me like that, because betrayal always comes from people that you know, people that you love, people that you care about. Betrayal never comes from a stranger. How can a stranger betray you? Because betrayal always comes from somebody close to you. It's like you keep your enemies closer, that type thing. So I hate to think of myself as an enemy. um we all have the enemy, okay? We all have the devil, who's always out here seeking to steal, kill, and destroy. But um I hate to think of myself in that light. But when I reflect back on a lot of things that I have done, I'm disappointed in myself. But needless to say, God isn't disappointed. God looks at us and views us as he sees his own son. And when I think of that, it's just kind of surreal to me, that God would look at me the same way he loves Jesus, the same way he looks at Jesus, and love me the same way he loves Jesus, but he does. And there's nothing that I have to do to earn that, because Jesus paid it all for me when he went to Calvary. So it's just, when you put all those things together and you know those things to be true, it's like that should be enough to make you want to live your life differently. But where I get frustrated is, even though I know these things, I don't always do the right thing all of the time, because, of course, I'm not perfect, or I might always or not always have the right thoughts or the right actions or the right plans for my life, or none of that. Because I think, in a way, hear me out, all of that is an illusion. Like, we have freedom to make our own choices as Christians, but all in all, we're not in control, if that makes sense. And I'm pretty sure those of you who grew up in the church, or those of you who may be like new to your journey, but deep enough to know that, in a way, it doesn't, because we can make our own choices, but we can't have our way all the time because God is still in control and He's still the mastermind behind our blueprint called life, that He ordained, especially for us, our purpose, our actions, what He has lined up for us before we even got here. So when I try to piece all this together, it's like trying to put pieces together that don't, how can I put this? It's like trying to put pieces of things together that don't necessarily make sense all the time. But when you apply the gospel and a faith to it, it does. I'm getting to the point, I promise. But the fact that God has an open door policy is beyond me, because for me, my own self, I can't say for y'all, but for some of the stuff I've done, I would have been shut the door. So it's that level of love that I don't deserve. That level of love that I feel like I don't deserve sometimes, but I'm very deserving of that love because I am a child of God. So that's, in a way, that's my birthright, as y'all like to say. So it's odd to think of it that way. Somebody that loves you that much, that would be willing to accept you no matter what you do. Because I hear so many people say, well, I use this language. God's not going to love me no more. I can't be a Christian because I've done this, or I did that, or I did this, and I betrayed them, and I did da 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 da. Do you honestly think that God is up in the heavens or sitting next to you? Because they say He's closer than your skin, keeping tally marks on you? Like, do you think that's the type of God you serve? God could care less about any of that stuff. All He cares about is you. Are you okay? Do you need anything? You're like His little baby. And I wanted to make this episode for those of you guys who have kind of been straddling the fence thinking, oh, I had sex before marriage, or, oh, I curse, I use explicit language, oh, you know, I cheated on so and so, I'm not a good person, I can't be a Christian, God don't love me, how could He forgive that? And I think that's because we have a worldly perspective, like we're thinking as humans, as we should, but God is a God. So I mean, his perspective and the way He moves is not the same way we move. If you get, he moved different. His mindset is different. And the way He looks at us is way different than how we look at ourselves. And so I guess if I could encourage you to do anything today, it would be to give yourself some grace. No, God knows that we fall short. As humans, we've been falling short since the beginning of time. And if you read the Bible over and over and over, we fail. We make all sorts of covenants and stuff, and things are supposed to turn out one way, and God be like, oh yes, I'm going to make this covenant with you knowing that you're going to screw up. He does it anyway. And then people are just like, gosh, well, as God is thinking, well, God, I'm going to have my son come down here and save the world because humans can't be, depended on to do what it is that I'm asking them to do. After years and years and years of disappointment, God just finally said enough is enough and sent His own son to do it, because I mean, we just couldn't deliver. And so when you think about the things that you're not proud of, and the things that you did, and that the things of how you wouldn't forgive yourself if it was the other way around, God don't think like that. God don't move like that. God don't see you like that. So don't try not to see yourself like that. Easier said than done, but When I was listening to my pastor, Pastor Robert Madu, because I attend Social Dallas. He did a sermon on, coming home. I forgot the sermon name, but I believe it's You Can Always Come Home. And he was talking about the character of God, the love of God, and how he sees us as Christians, as his children, um, and how the relationship should be. That prompted me to, and this was a while back. I attended Sarah Jakes Roberts' conference, and Torrey Roberts, her husband, did a sermon about intimacy with God. Never heard it ever preached like that or talked about like that in that way, which prompted me to make a journal about cultivating intimacy with God for younger individuals, but people of all ages buy my journal. And it was like a domino effect. But what I can honestly say is when you make that deeper connection with God, and I'm still working on going deeper myself, but I'm deeper than where I used to be. Just being able to talk to him like he's my friend, he's my dad, he's everything to me. Um, Things start to change at a rapid pace, and the way you see him and his character and what he's all about also changes. He's not this big, scary, intimidating person. Now, I have reverence. I do fear God and love him at the same time. I'm not going to cross him on purpose or do anything and just be like, oh, I'm forgiven. But it's like it's a balance. It's a balance to it. And like I said earlier, it makes sense, but it doesn't. Um, and that's how you know it's God, because it's not meant to make sense majority of the time. It's definitely not. Some of my biggest blessings came from me being unqualified to do whatever it was I got. And I got it because God wanted me to have it. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't on paper, but it made sense to my life and what He wanted for it. So He made it happen. Same thing, same principle applies. I hope I'm not rambling, guys, but I just basically wanted to use this time on your Monday morning to remind you that no matter what you do, no matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, God will always love you, and you can always, always come home. Always come home. Always come home. Nothing that you can do can ever be so bad. Remember, God had a killer a part of his squad. You know, he was a Christian killer. He was out here taking away lives, and God made him a part of his team. God came from a crazy family. If you think your family is crazy, you should pick up the Bible. He um he came from a family of craziness, and God is still God, and he was perfectly imperfect. And he wants you to know it's perfectly okay to be perfectly imperfect. So, guys, please go out here and live your life. Um, and for those of you guys who are just like, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, like his name was Paul. Well, Saul, and then God changed it to Paul. But anyway, he was out here killing Christians, and God took him up under his wing, and he was out here like spreading the gospel later on in life and trying to um, do work for the kingdom. He was following God, and he was a part of his team and everything. And people are just like, gosh, I thought killing people was the biggest sin. All sin is sin. All sin is sin. Not this sin weighs more than that sin, or this sin weighs less than this sin. No, sin is sin, and God forgives all. So all you got to do is just believe, confess, and try to do right, y'all. Like, it's not hard. And I feel like people complicate Christianity so much because they don't understand. And I know I've been saying it throughout this whole episode that it makes sense, but then again, it doesn't. But I feel like within the craziness, it makes the most sense. If you're a Christian, please pick up what I'm putting down. If this episode confused you, good. Maybe it'll give you something to think about. I will see you guys on the next episode. I swear this is like the craziest episode I've ever done because even hearing myself say it is just, it's not making sense. But anyway, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, guys. As always, thank you for tuning in to Resilience by Faith podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and like, share, and support. That's the best way to help me reach more people around the world. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.